It's time for segment 2, the first segment for Saturday's Breeders' Cup races. We will cover the first 5 races. We will start with the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, and I think any discussion in this race has to start with the prep from out in California, as Angela RENEE drew well in the Breeders' Cup. The thing about this race was that Angela RENEE rode the rail the whole way and had a perfect trip. The second place finisher rode the rail the whole way and angled out. The third place finisher pretty much rode the rail before angling out late in the turn. But the fourth place finisher, Majestic Presence, had a 4-wide trip around the racetrack, and she is the one I'm suckered into.
Yeah, I knew that we were going to look at this race the same exact way. I feel like if you just watch that race back, though, you almost have to like her in this race. And listen, I'm not taking anything from Angela RENEE. She's a nice horse.
Drew well.
She ran well in there. She's going to get another good trip in this race, but she had all the best of it. CONQUEST ECLIPSE got a great ride in there and followed her around the track. I mean, that horse that we took on top, Majestic Presence, she took all the worst of it in there, and she still made a run to contention.
I agree. She still made a real run in that race, and I like her chances. She draws much better with post 7, and actually, she's going to be my top pick eventually in this race, and she's the one I like out of that race. But I think there are obviously a lot of horses to look at. Now we're going to look at Angela. Actually, we don't even need to look at this race, to be honest with you. Though we could talk about it because Wonder Gal is in. Angela RENEE will finish second to Cavorting. Cavorting obviously was not entered in this race. Angela RENEE will finish second, and Wonder Gal is buried down in the inside. And this was the first of 2 lousy trips she's had since her impressive maiden win. And I think she's a player in this race, and we'll see it again. And we can go right to Verzette, where we'll talk about her being down on the inside, where your pick, By the Moon, got that clean outside trip. Can By the Moon do it again? Can Wonder Gal and or Feathered run better than they did this day?
Yeah, I certainly think By the Moon could do it again. We'll see what happens. I still feel like she has, even though she's now a Grade 1 winner, and she, had the best of this race the entire way, I feel like she still might have something to prove in this race. Wonder Gal, I agree with your take on her. I think she's had 2 really sneaky, tough trips in a row. I don't know how far she ultimately will want to go.
I agree.
But I think she's a dangerous horse in here.
She also draws outside, which in a certain way I think may help her in here. And obviously you don't want to lose a lot of ground, but she's now been buried down towards the inside 2 times. And I think on Verzette Day, you didn't want to be on the inside. It worked against her. And now she's going to be on the outside, and she can make a cleaner run towards the outside. By the Moon, don't you feel like By the Moon can get caught up in what could be a fairly contentious pace?
Yeah, I do think she could. We're actually projecting a fast pace for this race, and she is supposed to be involved in it. I don't know how many options she really has from post 12. She's a fast horse, and I think she's pretty good, but she just may not be able to pull the right trip in this race.
Yeah, I think she was very, very much hurt by the post draw. Now, another horse that didn't get a great post who drew right inside her was Top Decile, and Top Decile is going to be the second place finish in this race. This is the Alcibiades at Keeneland. The winner, Peace and War, got hurt. That is the 4-wide mover, Top Decile, who did break slowly in this race. I thought breaking slowly might have helped her chances. It made it easier for her to settle. It was a fast-paced race, but she was the first mover of the closers, and she didn't hold off one horse, but another horse looked like she was getting to her. She drew away. Can she, with 2-turn experiences, continue to run well going long, and can she win this race?
I think she can. I was a little bit against her, but I'm not going to be surprised if she wins. I liked her debut quite a bit, as I know you did, and she did run well in the Alcibiades there. I was a little disappointed she didn't hold on, to be honest with you. I know that she made the first run.
I was bitterly disappointed.
Yeah, I'm sure you were. But when they came to the top of the stretch, even the winner, maybe the winner's just very, very good, but the winner was looking for places to run, and you could just tell if she was going to get clear, she was going to catch this horse.
Yeah, Julian Leperoux actually gave her a sensational ride. I think Top Decile's a player. I think a horse who's a bit of a wild card is this horse, Christina's Journey. It's not like Dale Roma's to skip races, and I don't love that, but maybe his plan all along was to wait 2 months for the Breeders' Cup with Christina's Journey. This was a very fast pace, all things considered. It was faster than the boys ran that day. It was faster, I think, than the older horses ran. Obviously, it was slower at the end. The question is, can she survive what you expect and I expect to be a fast pace?
Yeah, I just don't know that she's going to be able to do that in just her 3rd lifetime start. Obviously, she's 2 for 2. Lifetime. She's done nothing wrong. She could be this kind of a horse, but I think it's a pretty tough ask for a horse like her. And I also didn't like the way that she was drifting at the end of that Pocahontas.
Yeah, I'm not going to split hairs there. I don't have her in my top 3. She's going to be in my pick 4 somewhere because I think there's enough good about her that she shouldn't be dismissed. The last horse is the true wild card of this race. Bill Mott and Donegal Racing are taking this maiden breaker right to the Breeders' Cup. I thought Bill would go the Tempted and or Demoiselle route, is usually his want. Perhaps a decision by the owners, perhaps by Bill. She is a very easy winner going a route, and she meets no killers here.
Yeah, that's the thing about her. I mean, typically, when I saw this race, and she obviously couldn't have been more impressive than she was winning this race, but it was a very weak field in this race, and she just buried them. At first, I thought I might not like her. The more I looked looked at this race, though, and this has been a division all year long, I just haven't been thrilled with the horses that are winning these stakes races. I think this might be the right time to step up with a horse like this.
Yeah, I'm going to use her. I've got her fourth. You've got her third. We've got the same two horses, 1, 2 in here. I think the reason to like these horses, we're not saying Angela RENEE can't win, because she can win, but these are horses that should offer value. They're going to be good prices.
Yeah, I think that's the way I've looked at this division all year long, and I'm going to continue to look at that division this way in this race. I think Angela RENEE can win. I'm not that big a fan of hers.
No, I'm not a big fan, but maybe she improved with more distance. We'll find out more in that race. Now we'll head to the second race on Saturday, the fifth race, and that is the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf. And I think we have to start off by showing last year's race when Dank was able to beat Emollient. The big question, maybe of the Breeders', one of the big questions of the Breeders' Cup weekend for sure is, what Dank are we going to see? I'm putting my money that we don't see last year's Dank, and I'm betting against her.
I'm betting against her, too. I feel the same exact way about her. It just feels like she came to this race last year as a different kind of a horse. Yep. And maybe you can just look at her and say they've handled her this year just to get her here again for the title defense, and that's why her 2 races don't look that good, but I'm having a tough time looking at her that way.
I'll tell you something else. I think this is a better Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf this year than the one she ran last year, and I don't think this is a horse that, she didn't run that badly in the duty-free finishing third. That's in March. Then she goes to the Prince of Wales, and I know it's a tough field, but she was a complete and total no-show, and now she hasn't run in 4.5 months. And I believe she has to run better than she did to win this race last year. It just seems like I don't need that at a relatively short price. And, Emollient, we'll take a look at Emollient's win, and she's got the win in Rodeo Drive locally. She got an absolutely perfect trip and a great ride in there, Frozen to Profit. The horse I want out of that race is Irish Mission. I think she is an interesting player to price in this race. She was wide the whole way. To me, she may have run the best race of anybody.
Yes, and she'll stay on all the way through the stretch of this race. That's all she does is stay on and stay on. I agree with you. Emollient, I cannot take, even off of that win, a nice win for her. I can't take her out of that race. Irish Mission, I think, is the horse that you want out of there, if you want any of them.
I wish it was still a mile and 3/8.
Yeah,
I think she'd be
absolutely.
even better at a mile and 3/8. I think the farther they go, the better she is. I have to think you're going to agree that this is the best American horse we're seeing in this race, and maybe the best horse, period. Stephanie's kitten, Chad Brown's done an amazing job getting a horse who looked like she was finished racing to finally win a Grade 1 at a mile and a quarter, which a lot of people thought might have been too far, after taking reasonably tough beats in both the Grade 1 Diana and Grade 1 Beverly D. She's been very good this year, and I don't think it's impossible that she's peaking right now, at least in her current form, and maybe in all of her form.
Yeah, I would say that she is peaking right now. And I know her first few starts this year, I wasn't thrilled that she just seemed to have completely lost her early positional speed and was trying to come from last every week. She showed the positional speed in that race. I think that's maybe the best race she's ever run. I think she's a really, really dangerous horse in here.
Yeah, I've picked her second. I've got another idea, but she is a major use for me. What about Chad's other horse, Day at the Spa? Bobby Frankel stole this race with Intercontinental at Belmont Park. I think that was a mile and 3/8. And when she won this race, and this was the first lady at Keeneland, you can look at it however you want. She ran faster than Wise Dan did a very, very short time later in that card. She is a talented horse. She's going to be on the front end. She's going to be dictating. It's a lot, though, to ask her to get the mile and a quarter. She's somewhere on my tickets, but not on top of them.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to have to use her defensively because she looks like she may be as loose as she wants to be early in this race. The distance, it's a tough call for me. I think she's really talented, but I'm going to use her somewhere. I just don't love her in here.
She feels like on a horse when she wins, you go, what was I thinking not using her? When she gets
race.
Nothing, you say, she was never getting a mile and a quarter. Just the Judge is running back 2 weeks after running up at Woodbine and winning the E.P. Taylor. She's a nice horse, Just a Judge, and I think she's an important horse as you link to some other Euros, and we're going to talk about our Euro horses after we do this, before giving our picks. I just don't think she's as good as some of the other Euros we're seeing, and I don't know that you can expect her to come back in 2 weeks and win.
Yeah, you almost feel like that since they ran her in this race, that maybe this wasn't even the plan for her, but now they're here. Right. I wonder, Beverly D was not a terrible effort. I didn't think she got the greatest trip in the world in that race, sort of in behind horses all through the stretch, even though she was still easily outfinished by Stephanie's kitten in there. I didn't think that was a great trip. She got a better trip last time, and she won. I don't really like her in this race.
No, I don't either. Let's talk about 2 Euros. Secret Gesture. Secret Gesture's kept some good company. Now, Timeform feels she's more of a Group 3 performer. Doesn't mean a Group 3 performer can't do well here. The horse who beat her in neck 2 back won the Northern Dancer at Woodbine. I don't think that effort would be good enough to win in here, and I don't like the way she took that left turn last time out. I think she's got some issues, but she's got some talent as well.
She's run some very, very big races, but I agree with you. I feel like of the Europeans coming over here, and there are some good ones, I liked her least of all of them.
Where are you on Fisolana, a horse who, on the surface of things, looks like she wants less distance? I'm not so sure.
I'm not so sure either. I actually pick her on top in this race because I feel like I just
Why are
think
we both here?
I don't know. We could just we could just alternate races and pick the same horses. I don't know. This horse they paid $1 million for to bring her back this year to run her, and I know the distance is a question. She looks like a miler type, but I think that she might be able to get this far, and I feel like keeping her away from the boys in the mile and running against these horses is a good thing for her.
There's some feeling that against the boys she doesn't run as well as she does when she runs against the girls, and her win 2 back in the Grade 1 Group 1 Matron Stakes was a very impressive effort. She had serious traffic, and I recommend people go to YouTube and watch that race. And she's also won at 1.25 miles, albeit 3 years ago against weaker, but she can handle the distance. And I think it's a mistake to think of her as only a sprinter. I'm taking her. You and I are on the same page here.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Dank is the right horse to be against in this race, whether she wins or not.
Man enough to take her out of your top.
Yeah, I did put her third because, listen, I'm certainly not putting horses like EMOLLIENT and Rusty Slipper in there. But I think there's some filler in this race, and I want Fusilana on top, and Stephanie's Kitten to me is the main danger of the Americans.
Yeah, I'm going to very much be using these 2 horses. They are my main 2 in this race. We will go to the 3rd race, the 6th race on Saturday, the 3rd Breeders' Cup race in the card, and this is the Filly and Mare Sprint. And we don't need to show the first video, the Midnight Lucky video, because obviously she has been scratched from this race. Judy the Beauty finished behind her. If we could actually go to our second plan video, the Judy the Beauty video, maybe she's the horse to beat Judy the Beauty, and she's certainly one of 4 I would use. But as you can see, she's running in a 4-horse field last time with a perfect trip. Like you said earlier, I don't love that Wesley Ward is racing his horses by appointment only. I'd rather have horses that are a little bit more battle-tested this year going these races.
Yeah, right. He's been, he's doing that with a lot of his Breeders' Cup horses, and he's done it with this horse all year long. And I know, like, she's one of those horses.
Why?
It's been going on with her, I guess, since she was a 3-year-old, where they just kept saying, we want to get a Grade 1 with her. We want to get a Grade 1 with her. And she was unlucky a couple times. They finally got a Grade 1 with her earlier this year in a synthetic race. But I don't like that she's coming here with one race since Derby weekend. She can win. She's a nice horse.
She was second in this race last year, and she ran a race that could win it. I don't completely trust her in this race. Now, Artemis Agriterra, in my heart, I'm rooting for her. I'm rooting for Mike Hushin to get a Breeders' Cup trophy. If anyone deserves one, it's him. And here she is last time showing a new dimension after sitting on the pace of La Verdad in Saratoga when she easily won the Ballerina. She went back towards the back of the field and was able to run her down, and was a very fast pace. I'm on the fence with her. I'm using her, but I'm not against her, but she's my 3rd pick.
Right. I feel the same way in that I wanted to just totally leave her out of my play in this race, but the longer I looked at it, I think it's pretty clear that she's a horse who can win this race. I'm playing against her. I want other horses on top in this race. I'm not going to be surprised if she wins. And like you, I hope Mike Hushin does win one of these.
Yeah, and I think if you're trying to beat Judy the Beauty, which I think we are, then she is the logical horse. What about Sweet Reason and also little Alexis, who both ran the test? This is 2 back for Sweet Reason. When she was able to get that great ride bear rod, she draws the inside, which will work for again, a ground-saving trip, angling out. I thought she ran okay when second cotillion showed that Leah Giamatti was right. She could go longer. I like that she's turning back. You know what I don't like, Mike? She's too slow.
That's the problem with her. This is her game. 7 furlongs is what she wants. You feel like she may have some pace in front of her to close into. She wants that as well. Her races are good. I mean, how do you knock a horse who's won 3 Grade 1 races? She's a little bit slow for this field.
If I lose this race, I hope she's the horse that beats me in here, because I don't think she's fast enough to win it, but I love her as a horse and have liked her whole career. You say you think she's going to get some pace. I'm not so sure. I think the horse we're taking a look at here, winning the Prioress, and keep in mind, she rode a big speed track. She was towards the inside most of the race. She was very much with the track, but she also got a 108 by her. I think she's too fast for these horses early. Can she get 7 furlongs? Well, I wouldn't make too much of her last race, and we're going to talk about her last race because Leah Court can obviously win it, because she had a duel with R. Free Roll, who's one of the fastest horses in the country. I think she's loose in this race. Whether or not she's good enough and whether or not she can get 7 is the question, but I think she's a controlling speed, Mike.
Yeah, and she's talented enough to win, too. And so if she gets loose on the front end in here, I won't even worry that much about the 7/8 because I think she's a really good horse. And if she gets clear through the opening quarter, I won't even care about the final furlong for her. I think she's good enough to win. I didn't put her on top, but I'm using her in every play that I make.
And I think that it's much easier to wire at 7 furlongs than it is at 6 furlongs, because they often go much faster in 6. In the 7 furlong races, they let them go a little slowly, and they become a 5 furlong sprint with an advantage. What about the horse that beat her last time, Lee Court? Lee Court got a perfect trip to get it done, but she was impressive for a trainer, Josie Carroll, who does a very good job, and she's got the speed to put herself in contention. I think people would be remiss to completely leave her off their tickets. I think she's a big-time player here.
I agree. She's never run a bad race. She has enough positional speed, so she's not going to be outrun early in this race. And I know that she sat in behind find this duel up the backstretch in this race when she won it. She came after the lead pretty early in there, though, on the turn, and she went right by Stonetastic in that race. This is a good horse, and I think she's I like her in this race. I picked her on top. I think she's very dangerous. She's going to get 7/8 with no problem.
No, I agree. She's my second choice. We just flip-flopped the two of them. You're going to get Sweet Reason there. I got Artemis Agriterra in there. I'm against Sweet Reason as much as I like her. Stonetastic and Lee Court, though, are my big two.
Yeah, they're my big two as well. I had to put Sweet Reason in there just because she's one of my favorite horses. And I was on the fence with Artemis Agriterra so much that I just didn't want to put her in my top three.
Okay, good, fair enough. An interesting race, the Filly and Mare Sprint. A race that is impossible, that I may go through my entire life never picking the winner of, is the next race, the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. We'll start out by taking a look at another Wesley Ward horse, another horse that runs by appointment only. Did win the prep race for the Woodward. This is No Nay Never. This race is going to feature a fast pace, and we'll talk about that a little later when we show a last year's Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. I don't want the speed horses. I don't want this horse, especially at 6.5 furlongs.
Yeah, I don't. He's never been down the hill before, which I look at as a negative for this horse. And look I know he was off a layoff here. Maybe he's going to take a step forward off of that race. I wasn't thrilled with that race that he just won.
I'm not thrilled with it either. What about Bobby's Kitten, another horse who has never won a race when he was going around down the hill? He's turning back in distance. This is when he got nailed in the Hall of Fame. I think he's a big-time player in here. You could argue his last race, when he finished third in the Woodbine Mile, is the best race these horses have been running. The question is, will he be comfortable down the hill? Because he's going to have to close against a bunch of horses, and he's more of a free-running type. Yeah,
that's the big question for him, is just, whether he handles, this layout and he can work the right trip in this race. But I think he's definitely talented enough to win this race. His Woodbine Mile last time, to me, the best race he's ever run. That stretch a little too long for him. He couldn't see it out. He's going to like this better.
What about this turn back, Silencio? We're going to go way back to Betfair Hollywood Park, his last win when he won the Hollywood, he won the Citation at Hollywood. But this is a horse that's run some good race, and he's had some trips. He had a trip in his next start when Wide in the Kilroe, a race dominating the front end. He didn't run that well in the American. The Shoemaker obviously got loose. What was he going to do? He's not really a synthetic horse. In my opinion, he might be the most talented horse in the race. What is your take, though, on whether or not he can turn back effectively and regain his form?
Yeah, that's what I don't like about him. I don't think I like him as a sprinter down the hill in this race, and I don't like that he has that inside post where this whole field, I don't think he's fast enough to get position in this race. This whole field's just going to run away from him. Maybe that'll help him with closing at the end, but he just, to me, he's more of a grinding type of horse, and I don't like him turning back. I like turnbacks a lot. I don't like him turning back in this race.
Yeah, I'm actually going to make him my top pick in this race. I understand the reservations, and I have reservations about him. What about a couple of horses coming out of the prep for this race? Ambitious Brew, as well as the winner of the race, Hunt Home Run Kitten. I know Home Run Kitten made that last late run, the kind of run I'm hoping Silencio can make. I thought Ambitious Brew ran the better race attacking early.
I do too. I think he ran the better race. I think he's the one you want out of this race. He is now a nose away from being 4 for 4 down the hill. I know he hasn't run in the top class races necessarily outside of this one here where I felt like he was best. I think he's coming here at the right time, and he handles the layout. He can get the right trip in this race, and I'm going to use this horse.
Yeah, he's going to end up being like my 5th choice, but I'm going to use a lot of horses and pick horses. To narrow it down to 3 in here, I think you're making a mistake if you try to narrow this race down too much. Now, maybe this horse Dimension, you've got Dimension, Something Extra, and Undrafted, all coming out of the race at Kentucky Downs. Dimension won it. I don't think he ran badly in the Breeders' Cup Sprint last year, a race dominated in the front end. Dimension's a major player in here, Mike.
Yeah, I think he can win this race. He switches to Ryan Moore, and that is not a bad thing. I took a long look at No Nay Never. Something Extra, a horse who I think is talented. I just wonder if he can work the right trip in this race. And even the horse that finished third in there, Undrafted, I like this horse. I've always liked him. I think he's a better turf sprinter than anything else. And I felt like going between horses in the stretch. Maybe he wasn't going to win that race anyway, but going between horses in the stretch, I thought it might have cost him last time.
It was also his first start in a couple of months since running over in the July Cup. And at least this horse, unlike all the Wesley Ward horses, has run a few races this year. And his race in the Jaipar was very good. I think he's a player as well. I think I have him 4th in the mix. To mention a big player. This is last year's Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. When you're seeing Renee's Got Zip, who did not draw well in here, finished second. You're seeing tight end touchdown, dead heat for third. I believe it's a completely different scenario this year. There was absolutely no speed whatsoever in this Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. Nobody gained any ground whatsoever. They were all the first 4 finishers, were right there the whole way. And frankly, with all due respect, the 2-time winner of this race, I think this is a much tougher field this year. This might be the best field they've ever had for this race, Mike.
This race is an absolute war. I mean, from the inside post to the outside post, I felt like I could have made a case for anybody in here. It's wide open. Listen, Renee's got zips a fast horse. Maybe she'll just go right to the front and be very tough in here. I can't see the race that way.
We're going to can the last video. Unfortunately, Free as a Bird was scratched from this race, and I just don't think Ageless is good enough. I went to Silencio. I hear the reservations. I'm hoping. Maybe it's my heart. I like this horse. I think he's an interesting player. Dimension I like in here. Bobby's Kitten. I've got your horse fourth, your second horse fifth. Right. This is a very tough race.
It's really, really tough. Though my top three are 11, 5, 6. I'll be using a lot more than that in multis.
Yeah, no, this to me, I'm really, a lot of times I look at this race and I go, I don't mind that I'm not going to win this race because I'm never going to win it.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to it because you've got a lot of good players in here and a very interesting mix. This is the best one we've ever run. I hope it's a harbinger of things to come in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. We'll close out this segment with the juveniles. And this is the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. And, of course, this was a race that lost a major player when American Pharaoh, we're looking at here, came out. I was against him, and I'm sorry he's not running A because I want to bet against him, but B, he's a good horse, and I wanted to see him in this race. I'm not against Calculator, who finishes second here. I don't like Texas Red. I don't think he's good enough. I thought Calculator ran very well chasing the whole way in what was a pretty slow pace, and I think the pace will be a little bit quicker in this division.
Yeah, it's 2 times in a row that he's just been left to chase American Pharaoh around the track, and he's just not as good as that horse. But I guess with that horse out, this is what you have left of the Southern California 2-year-olds. He's the best one that they have. I'll be honest with you, I'm not thrilled that he's still a maiden, but he's run very well in his 2 Grade 1 tries.
Yeah, I don't love the maiden thing either, but he's good enough to win it, and he draws well on the inside. Unlike the next 2 horses we're going to look at, and this is the New York contingent, they stuck us on the outside, those Californians. Just kidding. Daredevil, I mean, he is impressive winning here. But keep in mind, this was a slower pace than the Frisette. He was able to comfortably rate, which is a feather in his cap, wet track or not, and I think Upstart was very much against it. I think Upstart gets more pace to run in this race, even with American Pharaoh out, and I think he has a chance to turn the tables on Daredevil. I think these are the big 2.
I agree. And, you know, listen, even with American Pharaoh out, there is still supposed to be a fast pace in this race. And there are questions about Daredevil with he's never been on a fast dirt track. He's never been around 2 turns. He didn't get a good post. Can he rate and still run? I think he can. His 2 races to me are so good. I just feel like that, you know, this is one of those typical Pletcher, really good 2-year-olds, and he just may be better than these horses right now. But there are questions about him.
No, there are questions because of the dry track. Upstart has run well in a dry track, so that question doesn't exist. I think he is very dangerous, and he's bred to run all day, but Daredevil is going to be tough. What about the other Pletcher horse, Carpe Diem? The figure was not as strong, and I disagree with Timeform US. They did not rate the Champagne high. I think that Beyer had it much more right. I believe it was a much faster race than the Frisette. They have this race a similar in their figure to the Champagne. Beyer has a much lower. I agree with Beyer. I think he was beating nobody in here.
They seemed like not a very good field, that is for sure. I do like, what I like about this horse, obviously he has the 2-turn win already, and I think that is something that points you to this horse. I like the fact that he was able to show the kind of speed that he showed. I know his Saratoga debut was a speed favorite inside track, but for him to have that kind of speed at 5.5 and stretch out 3 furlongs for his next race and then bury a field like that, this horse can run.
He buried nobody.
He did.
And I think a 2-turn experience is a little overrated. Obviously, it's a feather in his cap.
Sure.
But I don't think it's the be-all and end-all. We'll find out. He can win this race.
Sure.
I'm going to side with Beyer and think that race is a bit too slow. What about Super Colossal is much slower? I think we'll look at his win in the Sapling. This is a horse who is coming off of 2 straight gold rail wins at Monmouth. I'm not saying he doesn't have some talent, and I know he worked well. I think he's as dressed up as a horse can be.
I agree with that. I mean, maybe he's an okay horse, and down the line he's going to turn out to be okay. He's obviously done nothing wrong, but he's not for me in this race.
How about the next horse we're going to take a look at, One Lucky Dane? You could consider him the true wild card of this Breeders' Cup Juvenile. He didn't run that well on synthetic. I got to tell you, when they went to dirt with him, he was devastatingly good in this race. Now, once again, you got a fast pace. Can he rate in here?
Right.
Certainly can't outrun him early. He didn't draw that well towards the outside. But One Lucky Dane isn't impossible in here.
He's one of those horses. I don't, listen, we'll see what happens.
I don't like him, but
I don't like him either.
either.
He improved a lot in that dirt race. That was another one of those races where he was able to get right to the front. Nobody could challenge him, and then he just aired through the stretch. This is a totally different scenario for him.
No, totally different. I'm interested in what we get from him because he could be a horse going down the road. We have similar opinions. I'm putting Upstart in trouble on top. I'm sorry, just because he'll be a better price.
Right.
They're my main 2 horses. You and I are in a lot of agreement here, which means we'll probably get buried.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, though, because this is another race where I feel like when you go through it, it's a Breeders' Breeders' Cup race, I get it, but there are a lot of 30-to-1 shots on the morning line in here who just, to me, they can't be competitive, and it brings it down to a small group of horses, I think.
I do not disagree, especially with American Pharoah out. That does it for the first 5 Breeders' Cup races on Saturday's card. We're going to take a little breather, but segment 3 with the final 4 races, including the Classic, is coming up.